I'm someone who finds comfort in a moving car. I seem to think clearer this way. As I drive, I become motionless while the world around me goes into motion.
And you don't have to worry about eavesdropping when you're inside of a moving car. So, let's get down to business, shall we?
On the night the Bay Bridge was bombed, a U.S. fighter undergoing nighttime training at Miyake Island went missing.
And that was the aircraft captured on tape?
The U.S. military admitted it and reported it to us. Unofficially, of course. As it so happens, we have a direct channel with them, as one military to another. This might surprise you, but it's hardly in their best interest to leave Japan's defense in disarray by hiding the facts from us.
Why would the U.S. military bomb the Bay Bridge?
They didn't intend to bomb the bridge. Frankly, both the U.S. military and most likely the pilot that launched the missile himself are both victims in this incident.
Do you care to explain that to us?
We've been secretly tracking a certain group of people for the last year or so. Politicians with a close affinity to military and defense issues, former members of the Chiefs of Staff, elements of the U.S. Armed Forces and arms industry. It's a pretty loose coalition. The group felt alarmed over how Japan was unwilling to keep up with the arms race in Asia that followed the Cold War. So they came up with a staged military spectacle to jolt Japan's political status quo from its peace-loving stupor. Remember the incident 26 years ago with the defecting MiG-25? It upset Japan's confidence in her air defense system and made national defense a major issue. This was to be a replay of that. A low-altitude approach aimed right at the capital's front door, branding a lock-on signal on its bright white door. The mission turned out to be a resounding success, except for the part about a real missile actually being launched.
An accident?
Possibly, but until we can prove otherwise, it's best to assume that someone purposely made it happen. As of yet, the F-16 in question still hasn't returned to base.
So someone used this farce concocted by some crackpots for their own purposes? But what for?
Wait a minute. If you already know all this, then why not go public to clear up the allegations against the Self-Defense Force? Doesn't the defense agency—
Of course the agency knows. The Chiefs of Staff are pressing the government to go public, but the cabinet's wavering. The case for criminal involvement on the part of a third party rests entirely on speculation. There is no hard evidence. If they go public on the line that this was accidental, it could develop into a huge scandal they won't be able to handle. For now, they're following standard operations procedure. Press ahead with the investigation and keep an eye on the situation. You know the drill. They're complete idiots. This is exactly what the perpetrator wants. If the brass keeps ignoring those on the ground,
They might just be making the situation worse than it has to be.
I want to get the perpetrators before it comes to that. I trust you're willing to cooperate.
Mr. Arakawa, wasn't it? That was quite an interesting story. But everything you've just touched upon is based on conjecture and speculation, even with the footage you showed us. You already proved yourself how anything on videotape is unreliable as evidence. Sorry, I don't think I can go along with this gig.
Well, you certainly live up to your reputation, Mr. Goto. I was right in coming to you. So, let's assume that both of the videotapes were falsified. That doesn't change the fact that the Bay Bridge was blown up. Am I right? There's a file under the passenger seat. Yukihito Tsuge, one of the founding members of the group I just mentioned. His current whereabouts are unknown. We're doing everything we can to find him. He's our prime suspect. Since you work with laborers, I imagine that you've heard his name before. Tracking people down like this isn't our first line of expertise, and since it's a delicate affair, we can't bring the police in.
In case you hadn't noticed, we're cops too, you know.
They say you're armed with powerful connections to numerous people. Plus there's SV2's extra legal operations, or perhaps I should say accomplishments. Word's gotten around.
Those are baseless rumors. We're ordinary public servants, no different from you.
Excuse me. Yes? What?
Hey, you do realize you have 2 active duty police officers here.
Our man made his move sooner than we thought. 3 F-16Js with bomb munitions took off from Misawa and are headed south. They'll enter Tokyo airspace in about 20 minutes.